Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
A part of this event today, our next presenters are DEE Wagner and Stephen Wagner, a mother and son. DEE Wagner has been a dance movement therapist and counselor since 1993. She has written and presented on Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory in professional conferences, peer-reviewed journals, and popular magazines like Asana International, Yoga Journal, and Elephant Journal. Stephen is a Tai Chi teacher and student of healing modalities in many traditions. Together, they have developed partner practices that invite awareness of developmental dances, honoring the interactions of wild mammal mothers and their young. The title Chi for Two plays on an old American song, Tea for Two, the lyrics of which say, "Can't you see how happy we will be?" Welcome to both of you. I'm excited to share in this session with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. It is awesome to be here with everyone. Kaylin, thank you for that amazing, moving invitation for us to hear the story, the beautiful story that you shared about your dance with your son here while I'm here with my son. I mean, how cool is this? And then to look at Lori, whose photo here is with her daughter. How awesome that we're here talking about these family dances, these interactive dances, this Chi for two. So yeah, I am a counselor. I'm a dance movement therapist. I have been writing and presenting on scientist Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory. That's what it is. It's called polyvagal because the vagus nerve is the nerve that serves the parasympathetic nervous system, the system that helps us calm down. Now, one thing that polyvagal theory helped us understand is there's two very major ways to calm down. And this is very new information. And it was so enlightening to me when I discovered it. There's a way that we calm down that is what Stephen Porges calls shutdown. And we'll tell you more about that. And then there's a kind of calming that is this playful, active state that allows rest and replenishing digestion. So that's what we're going to share a little bit with you guys about today. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory dovetails with the understanding of trauma expert Peter Levine. And it overlaps with what's called attachment theory. Now, in the spiritual community, sometimes that can be confusing. Attachment theory, aren't we trying to give up attachments? Attachment theory helps us appreciate our need as infants to attach to the body we come out of in order to feel secure. Now, this need, we don't always get our needs met, but when we understand and appreciate that need, that's how we find our way into the literal releasing of our grasping. Now, over my 28 years of being a therapist, I have slowly been developing these partner practices that we call Chi for Two. We use the word Chi because it rhymes with the English word tea. And there's that old American song you heard about that goes Tea for Two. My mom loved this song. And so using the Chi for Two name, which honors Tea for Two, makes this multi-generational. And as you heard from Kaylin, these dances are multi-generational. How do we find our own unique dance within the multi-generational dance? And that's what Chi for Two is all about. That song, Chi for Two, that my mom loves so much, people would often do a dance called soft shoe. T for two, and two for T. About 2 years ago, this amazing being that is presenting with me here, this my son, joined me in working and developing Chi for Two practices.
Hi, my name is Stephen Wagner, and I'm a licensed Tai Chi teacher, a meditation facilitator, and an embodiment coach. This idea of the inner light, this idea is found both in the ancient East and beautifully in modern psychotherapy. When we talk about attachment theory and we talk about trauma work, this is a way, just like there have been many ways throughout time, for us to approach the birth of inner light. And our program is about this. But before we talk too much about theoretical and conceptual ideas, and we use our language to communicate, I want to invite everyone into an experiential exercise, because an embodied experience of divinity can be so much more powerful than an experience that is conceptual. So I'm going to invite you to practice a Chi for Two exercise with me. And I use the word invite very consciously. Everything we do in Chi for Two is infundational. And the reason is because sometimes you differentiating from my leadership. In other words, you saying, no, right now, my instinct is not to participate in what you're doing. Sometimes that is how you find your inner flow, is by separating. And so we are offering this invitation, if you would like. It's called Deep Nourishment Core Awareness. And we're kind of seeing my head, but I've got a body underneath this head, and everyone is invited to connect to their body as I connect to my body. And we've got these wonderful sensation aware things, these hands that can feel energy if you practice Tai Chi or Reiki. And these hands, I invite you to just rest them on the body, on the core. And it can be powerful on the heart, but at least one hand should be below the belly button on an energy center we call the Dantian. And this area is where we experience what is called dorsal vagal shutdown. And this is what happens when we go into freeze and when we are afraid. And so take a moment and listen to the body. I invite you to take this moment and just see, does your body say something, a memory, a feeling, a thought, some kind of communication, maybe just a little gentle something. And now I gently invite everyone back from that self-awareness. And like at the end of a yoga class, when someone invites you out of Savasana, if you are having a moment, with yourself, take that, pause this, take that moment. But if you would like to continue with me, I'm going to talk about the theoretical framework for Chi for Two. This idea of the inner light is found in modern depth psychology with the work of Michael Meade. And Michael Meade teaches us that there is a deep self and an egoic self. And this idea that the ego thinks the deep self is non-existent initially, and the ego thinks it is all that we are. But eventually the ego discovers there is something that is deep within us, something shining through us into this dimension. a spark of divinity, a light, and that light begins to emerge. So here we have it in the modern psychotherapy world. We also see this in Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen's work. As we talk about navel radiation, again, this idea of energy coming from the center, navel radiation and child development psychology. And then we see it in the ancients. In the East, we see it in the idea of namaste in the Vedic philosophy. And we also see it in the West, in the Christian idea that is found in this scripture. I seek and serve the Christ in every person. So this idea of the inner light is old and new. And our work is all about bringing this inner light into the world in each one of us. But there is something that we feel like is being overlooked in the community of healers. And that is the foundation of what Chi for Two is. It is our offering to this beautiful community. And there's something that we would like to talk about that is a part of this process. Dee is going to take it from here.
Thank you, Stephen. So we yoke the light of our spirit with this corporeal body in this lifetime in relationship. As we are forming in the womb, as we are pushing into the womb space, we are beginning the yoking of spirit and corporeal body. When we are born, we are swaddled, we are held. We call this in Chi for Two the pouch, because like marsupials that need a pouch, kangaroos, possums, we need more time where we are being held with a certain amount of tightness, malleable tightness, and that we can push into that the way we did into the womb space. Now, child psychiatrist Judith Kestenberg and colleagues, including dance movement therapist Susan Lohman, studied infants for a long, long time. And they identified that there are two infant rhythms that alternate. Half of the rhythms are called indulging rhythms. And half of the rhythms are called fighting rhythms. The indulging rhythms tend to match with the rhythm of the parent, and the fighting rhythms tend to mismatch. Now, these fighting rhythms are how we individuate within the system, the social system with which we are born. In Chi for Two, we appreciate these fighting rhythms.
So what Dee is saying here, talking about the importance of fighting rhythms, is the idea that mismatching, in other words, not going with the flow, is actually a really important part of individuation. And individuation is a term that is from Jung and depth psychology, and the idea of the inner light emerging within you. So here's the thing that's kind of complicated in the zeitgeist of go with the flow. Well, sometimes going with the flow of a community, be it a religious community or be it some kind of neighborhood or be it a healing community, sometimes that going with the flow actually inhibits the ability to allow the inner divine light to flow within each person. And so what we're offering is this idea that sometimes we need to sort of wrestle with the flow, you know?
Yeah. So we have Chi for Two partner practices for relationships in which there is an even power differential. Lovers, friends, colleagues. And we have practices for which there is a relationship with an uneven power differential, where one person is holding space for the developmental dances of another. Parent-child, therapist, client, coach, client, boss, employee. The romantic dances have a special spiritual place because as us counselors have known for a long, long time, it is within the romantic dances that our unfinished infant parent dances get triggered, particularly the ones of the fighting rhythms and the mismatching dances. And that's great, because then each of the members of the couple can bring those unfinished dances to the chief or to coach and do a redo, practice repatterning those individuating dances so they can come back to one another post-pubescent, which makes a romantic relationship a lot more fun. Now, most cultures have taken these fighting rhythms, these mismatching dances, and they've put them into this state that Porges identifies as dorsal vagal shutdown. The babies over time, over generations, when the fighting rhythms wake up, that first fighting, snapping rhythm, the look on the parent's face is so confused that that baby shuts down the nerve firing that would flex the muscles that would move the bones. When the baby wakes up, that first straining rhythm, the parents have such tired energy, such weak energy. The baby shuts down those nerve firing that would flex the muscle that would move the bones. Now, we know from the work of trauma expert Peter Levine that when moves have been put into dorsal vagal shutdown and they wake up with this burst of fight flight. Is this okay? I mean, this wasn't okay back when I was little. Something doesn't feel right about this. Is this okay? And we in Chief or Two say, yeah, bring it on. And then we offer the redo of those dances where the coach, the person who is in the role of the parent, in the role of that wild mammal mother, can accept these fighting rhythms with lightness of heart. Wild mammal mothers, wild mammal carnivore mothers teach the litter bite regulation. Let me teach you the difference between the bite that is for the prey, that will be dinner, versus the bite that's for your litter mates and rough and tumble play, versus eventually that gentle jaw that lifts the babies and carries them from place to place. Teaching this bite regulation was the role of the wild mammal mother. So when we say that the coach is wild mammal mother, we're not talking genitalia. We're talking the neuropeptide oxytocin. Oxytocin is mostly associated with mothering, but scientist Sue Carter helps us see the role of oxytocin in all social interaction. So we're going to finish with a little demonstration of the practice we call bite snap, caught by the mother, capital T, capital M. So I'm going to role play wild mammal mother. I'm going to get my catcher's mitt up here so that my energy sphere is intact, but I'm making a little holding space for the person. Stephen will play the role of the client. Now, Stephen, before you do it, let me just say one little thing. So if the Chief or Two coach is working with a family, then the Chief 2 for 2 coach would do this with the parent, with the adult. Like if we were working with Stephen's son, I would help Stephen do this first so that then we could coach Stephen to do this with his son. So this is bite snap caught by the mother. So Stephen feels his frustration and bites it towards me, and I'm going to handle it until he learns to handle it better himself. So Stephen, when you're ready, you toss me.
I'm not quite ready. And
Okay.
you expect me to be ready. And so this is me breaking the flow, which is real time what we're talking about. And what I'm going to say is that to everyone who's participating, so the zeitgeist of good vibes only, what do we do with that? what about the vibes? What about the energy that is a good energy, but it's a mismatch energy? It's a fighting energy. How do we handle that? And the reality is it's out there and it's not going anywhere if you're paying attention to the news in this country. So as a trained capoeirista, which is the Brazilian martial art in which dancing, quote unquote, dancing is actually fighting, or fighting, quote unquote, is actually dancing because the slaves were hiding their martial art. I ask, how do we dance fight as a community? How do we dance fight as a country, which hopefully will allow the awakening of consciousness in this country, but at the same time is going to force us to look back on the atrocities of the past. So this Chief for Two is an example of one way we offer dance fight. And so I'm going to show you now, I've got plenty of anger about what has happened on this planet. And so here I am with someone who can handle it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I asked, did it feel like I caught what you threw?
I got a little bit more. Yeah!
This is powerful energy. And I'm going to help you, for starters, like a mom helps a baby, like the mama wolf helps the puppies, for starters. And eventually you'll be able to handle it yourself. But for now, I'm going to take this powerful energy and I'm just going to switch it into protons, neutrons, neutrinos, like a tree that transforms the carbon dioxide into oxygen. I'm going to send this powerful energy back to you as stardust.
Like my negative energy is now giving me the ability to shine brighter. And I'll say, isn't it interesting that for trees, our shit is their food?